Hello, my name's Martin, and I'd like to have a go at giving you a few helpful hints and a bit of advice on making a start on playing the English Concertina. That's the instrument I'm talking about. None of this is scripted. I've never done it before. I'm a beginner. No, I'm not a beginner player anymore. I would call myself an improving player. Well, I hope I'm improving. My playing hasn't improved a lot in recent years actually, because I've been trying out other instruments and doing other things. But it did occur to me that there's a whole dearth of information about how to get started on the English Concertina, and books are all well and good, but this seemed to be like a good opportunity to produce some little video clips that might help people get started. So none of this is scripted. I'm making it up as I go along really, and I just hope you find it helpful. I shall try and do it in 10-minute chunks, so if I keep looking at the computer screen it's to see that I'm still within the 10 minutes. Right, so an English Concertina. This is one of them. It's different to an Anglo Concertina, and you can tell at a glance when you're out in the pub or at a pub session. You can tell at a glance because the English Concertina has this little thumb strap there and a little finger rest down there. So you hold it like that and like that. Sorry, if I come closer to the camera, like that and that, okay? Yeah, okay, let's get those out of the way. There you go. That's a good example, okay? Now, the Anglo Concertina has a strap that runs across the back of the hand, so you can spot them, you know, quite easily. You can tell the difference. Now, what is the difference? Well, the English Concertina, if I come up to the camera here, the English Concertina has the buttons laid out in this configuration here, 4 rows on that end, and 4 rows on that end. And what it essentially means to a player is that you get the same note whether I'm pulling the bellows and pushing the bellows. It's the same note. On the Anglo Concertina, when you pull the bellows you get one note, and when you push the bellows back again you get a note of a different pitch, either one higher or one lower. That's a little bit like a melodeon, a 2-button melodeon. So the English Concertina is same note on the push and pull, and it is fully chromatic. Now this means that every note that's available to a musician on a piano is available to you on here. Okay, you've got all the notes that you need on here. You've got all the white notes and all the black notes off the piano keyboard, and I'll explain more about that as we go along. On the Anglo Concertinas you are restricted. Some notes are missing. They put the notes on so that you can play tunes in G and D. Of course there are some variations, but generally, you know, Anglo Concertina players will buy a box in G or D. I think the Irish, if there's anybody watching who can tell me, I think the Irish probably have their own peculiar taste, and that's how, to some degree, I think that's how they get the wonderful sounds they get when they're playing, the wonderful kind of style that's difficult to imitate using a different instrument. Okay, so this is English Concertina. I'm very, very lucky man, because this one was built by Steve Dickinson, who is Wheatstone. This is a Wheatstone Concertina. It's an Aola, 8-sided, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8-sided, okay. It's an Aola. It's a tenor treble, so when Steve made this, he cut off some of the very useless high notes and put in some very, very beautiful bottom end notes. There it is. Trying to find that bottom B flat. There's a bottom B flat down there on my concertina.
It's 11 hours.
Okay, so I particularly like this, but I can use this and we can make some progress, I hope, because I've got the treble range as well. I'm going to make loads of mistakes. I'm not a good player. I make no pretense whatsoever to be an expert concertina player, but I have learned a little bit about getting started, and yeah, I'm hoping to be able to pass on a few tips and tricks that maybe you can't find down the pub. Okay, so we've had a little look at my instrument. Now, your instrument, you're going to find it difficult if it doesn't play if it doesn't play fluently. This is the word I'm looking for. In other words, when you press a button on the end, inside what happens is there's a little pad lifts off a hole that allows air through that hole, and that blows across a tiny steel or brass reed, much like when you blow across the reeds in a mouth organ. Now, if the pad has air leaks, or if the valve doesn't work quickly and effectively, when you press the button, the note might not speak. That's the term we use. It might not speak immediately, and here it does. On the pull and on the push, it speaks. Now, if you can push a button and squeeze your bellows gently and nothing happens, then that note isn't speaking quickly and correctly. And in my opinion, what spoils a lot of concertina music is that the players are playing on concertinas that are not set up or haven't been looked at by an expert. Because obviously every single button has to have the same action, the same amount of movement, and you want the notes to speak as you play them. You know, it's a bit like having sticky keys on the piano, I suppose. Okay, so you know, you're going to need an instrument where when you play up and down the notes on the fingerboard, when you think you should be getting a note, you are getting a note. If what happens is you press a button and nothing happens and you have to pull a bit harder, that's going to show up in your playing very, very quickly. Also, of course, you need an airtight set of bellows, a set of bellows that don't let any air in. Okay. I suppose I started on a machine. Let's just check the time. Oh, blimey, time's going quite quickly. Yeah. I started on an Italian-made concertina, a cheapo job from one of the folk instrument suppliers here in the UK. I suppose they're £350, £400, something like that. Within 12 months, I'd pretty much exhausted it. It had started to develop problems. The metals inside, the action, things like that were a little bit flimsy, started to bend, and I played it a lot. Bending wasn't the main problem, actually. The metals would rub against each other, and I ended up with a very fine metal dust as it was all wearing away inside. And it stops you making progress. So you do need to get hold of the best concertina you can, otherwise it's going to put you off making progress and make it more difficult to make progress. And I would say that here in the UK you've got to be spending £700 or £800 to get a beginner's playable instrument. They're all old instruments. There's very few people making concertinas now, so they're all old instruments. But the beauty is, if you spend £700 or £800 in a year's time or 10 years' time, you'll get your money back and more. They do not go down in value at the moment, okay? And this is almost 20 years old, but I've had other concertinas that have been 100 years old, and they still sell for, well, it depends on the manufacturer, but they'll sell for a lot of money. So you invest your money, you have a go at learning to play. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, you get all your money back, okay? Whereas with the cheap Italian-made and Chinese-made concertinas, if you buy one of those and decide it's not for you, I'm afraid you will have lost your money.